3:33 in the morning, the board would light up on line 4, same as always, and I would hear breathing before anything else. 22 years on the graveyard shift, and I can tell you the exact sound a burning house makes over a phone line. I can tell you what a child sounds like when she's already dead and still asking for help. I never told my supervisor how the caller knew my name. I worked graveyard at the Colby County Communications Center for 19 years, 11 at night to 7 in the morning. Headset clipped over one ear so I could still hear the room. You learn the rhythm of it. Domestic disturbance around midnight. Car wrecks after the bars close at 2. A lull after that, until the phones go quiet enough you can hear the building's own hum. Then, for 6 weeks straight, at exactly 3:33, line 4 would light. No words, just breathing, slow, and even like someone standing very still. I'd say the line, ask for the emergency, get nothing back but that breathing. And then the call would drop at the 47-second mark every single night, like a hand had reached out and cut it clean. The caller ID read a 10-digit number I didn't recognize. When I ran it, the system gave me an address instead of a name. 14 Larch Hollow Road. There's no house there anymore. I pulled the property record on my next break. Larch Hollow Road dead ends past the county line. 4 lots, mostly hunting cabins. Number 14 burned to the slab in October of 1998. County records list 4 dead, Marion and Paul Actor, and their 2 children, ages 6 and 9. Cause of fire, faulty wiring in the kitchen. Response time, 19 minutes. In a district where the average is 6, 19 minutes gets you a slab. And 4 names on a plaque nobody visits. The line had been disconnected the following spring. The phone company had no record of it being reassigned, no record of it existing on any live circuit since 1999. I asked the day shift supervisor if a disconnected number could somehow route a call through our system. He laughed, the way people laugh when they don't actually know the answer. That night, at 3:33, line 4 lit again. 47 seconds. Breathing. Then, underneath it, so faint I almost missed it, a smoke detector chirping. Once I heard the smoke detector, I started listening for more, and more kept showing up. A crackle like a fire finding paper. Something metal ticking as it heated. Once, unmistakably, a child counting 1, 2, 3, the careful, deliberate counting of a kid who's been told to count instead of cry. I logged every call anyway, the way you're trained to. Time received, duration, disposition. No response requested. Caller unresponsive. My supervisor started calling it my haunted line, and he meant it as a joke. I stopped finding it funny the night the counting got to 10, and a voice underneath it, small and scorched sounding, said, "Tell them to hurry." Not to no one, not into the receiver like a prayer, to me, by the console. I checked the recording twice, at home, with the volume up loud enough that my husband came out of the bedroom to ask what I was listening to. It was there both times I hadn't told anyone my shift started at 11. I requested the original incident file for the Larch Hollow fire The actual 1998 dispatch log, not the county's cleaned-up summary. It took 3 weeks and a records request with my badge number on it. The dispatcher who took that first call logged the address wrong. Larch Hollow Road instead of Larch Hollow Court. 2 roads 11 minutes apart by the only bridge that crosses Miller's Creek. The engine went to the wrong address, realized it, and had to backtrack. 19 minutes instead of 6. The log entry ends with a disposition code and 2 initials. Mine. I was 22 that year, 4 months out of training, working my first solo graveyard shift on a night my supervisor had called in sick. I don't remember taking that call. I've tried. I remember being told, gently, the next morning, that a family hadn't made it, and that these things happen, and that it wasn't my fault. Nobody had ever told me the address. After that, I stopped waiting for the calls. I started dreading them exactly the way you dread a scheduled procedure, watching the clock crawl toward 3:30, and then just sitting there with my hand already on the headset. They never varied. 47 seconds. The breathing, the fire sounds underneath, the counting. Then one night, the counting stopped at 6, which it had never done before, and the small burned voice said a name clearly enough that the dispatcher next to me, a kid named Trevor who'd been on the job 4 months, looked over and asked who I was talking to. He'd heard it through my headset from 2 feet away. He asked me to play it back over the console speaker so he could hear it properly. We both listened to it 3 times. The voice was saying my name, not my call sign, not dispatcher. My actual first name, the one that isn't on any badge, in a district where callers only ever see a 4-digit unit number. Trevor reported it up the chain, because that's what you do when something goes wrong you can't explain. And for 2 days, I had a supervisor and a phone company representative, both looking at the same 16 seconds of audio like it might explain itself if they stared long enough. The rep confirmed what I already knew. The number tied to Larch Hollow Road had no active circuit. It couldn't originate a call any more than a phone thrown in a lake could. There was no tower, no line, no possible physical path for that signal to reach our board. And yet the board showed it. 47 seconds, logged, time-stamped, recorded to the same server as every real call that night. My supervisor suggested I take some nights off. I told him I would, and then, because I have never once in my life left a call unanswered, I came in anyway on my night off and sat at my console at 3:20 in the morning, waiting. 3:33 the board lit. I answered before the first ring finished. This time, I didn't wait for the breathing to stop. I gave the directions myself, out loud, clear, the way I should have 19 minutes too late in 1998. Larch Hollow Court, not road. Cross Miller's Creek at the low bridge. Second driveway past the dead oak. The breathing changed. It caught, the way breath catches when someone hears exactly what they've been waiting 19 years to hear. Then behind it, impossibly close, I heard engines. Real ones, sirens rising and cutting off the way they do arriving on scene. Gravel under tires, a door slamming. It should have taken 6 minutes. It took 4 seconds. The call ended clean, no cutoff, no drop, just a soft click like a receiver set gently back in its cradle. When I pulled the log afterward, the timestamp read 3:32. The call had ended 1 minute before I picked it up. That was the last call from Larch Hollow Road. I checked every night for the rest of that year. And then, for the 6 more years, I worked before I retired. Line 4 never lit again at 3:33. I didn't think about it much after that, not really, until last spring, when Trevor called me at home. He runs graveyards now himself, same console, same headset habit of clipping it over one ear. He asked if I still remembered the Larch Hollow calls. He said a new number had shown up on line 4 the night before. 47 seconds, breathing, and underneath it, he said, very small, very careful, counting. He asked if I had any idea whose voice that might be. I told him I didn't. That was the truth. It hadn't sounded like the girl. It had sounded like him. If you want to hear what else comes through on the graveyard shift, subscribe, because I've got more of these calls than I've ever told anyone.